Hi there, it's Jonny Miller from Point Blank Online Music School, back once more to show you some really cool stuff with Ableton Live 8 and samples and sounds from clickproduce.com. This week I've got my old school hat on and I'm going to look at how to recreate some classic techno using a really brilliant product from Spin Media called Midi Focus Bassline. And this is a little bit different to the sample libraries that I've looked at in previous videos, and let me just take you through here. What we've got in this folder is a Live 8 project which you can actually install on your machine, and all the samples and sounds and patches from Midi Focus Bassline will be woven into your Ableton Live library. Now I've gone into this folder here just to show you what else is actually in there, and this is really cool. We've got a combination of two things, essentially. We've got MIDI files. MIDI files are essentially blueprints of melodies and songs, for instance. Now, let me show you what these are. If I just I went into a folder here labeled Minimal. We've got Minimal, Old School, and Techie. If I go into Minimal and just click on one of those MIDI files and preview it, now what you're hearing there isn't actually the sound of a sample contained within this file. It's just the notes, just the position of the notes within what will end up being a MIDI clip. So these are patterns, rhythmic patterns. I'll just play a few more. And I'm looking for one that's got a bit of a quite busy feel to it. Let's go for this one. Okay, so I'm going to load that MIDI file onto a MIDI track in Ableton. And again, if I just hit play on that, nothing happens. We can't hear anything. But what we've got, if I just zoom in here, we've got all these notes laid out for us. So what we need to do now is load up a synthesizer which those MIDI notes will trigger sound from. Now for this, I'm going to go back into Midi Focus Bassline, the folder. And just to show you, if I go into soft synth patches, we've got folders here for a couple of different music production software package platforms. So Reason, we've got synths and devices from the Reason collection in here. We've got Native Instruments Massive in here. And Ableton Live, we've got an instrument rack folder. Now what this essentially is a folder of synthesizers modeled on the classic Roland TB-303 machines. If I load one of those patches onto the track where my MIDI file is on, now we get a beautiful recreation of the classic 303. So there's the MIDI file, but this time it's triggering notes. It's triggering sound from this, in this case, the 5P bassline saw. Now this synth is basically an analog synth in Ableton, plus a couple of effects devices. We've got overdrive in there, EQ, and a couple of delays. But it's all set up ready to go. If I close this down and just focus in on this interface here, these are called macro controls. Everything's hardwired, ready to go. I've got filter frequency, resonance, and bite. All the classic sounds we used to get from the 303 if we ran it through some effects units like distortion pedals and delays. So in essence, what I can do now is place that alongside, I've programmed up a 909 flavored beat here, and I've kind of got instant techno. Here's the drum loop, just a simple pattern I've programmed up using 909 drum sounds. Now the creative bit is actually going into the MIDI file and just moving things around, making it your own, and that's a phrase that you'll hear me use a lot in all my tutorials. So I'm going to go in and take all these notes that are on C3 and just move them down with my arrow key just to create a slightly different melody. And maybe if I want to, I could take out some notes and generally kind of customize this pattern, make it mine. Or even if I highlight all the MIDI notes and just move them all around with my arrow key, I get a totally different rhythm. So highly recommended, MIDI focus bassline. And yeah, you can learn some more stuff like this at pointblankonline.net. And I'll be back again next week with some more sounds and samples and cool stuff from Live 8 and clickproduce.com.